Hey everybody, this is Herschel from High School Top 200. This St. Pat's Silverstream review is brought to you by Fineline Barbers. Fineline Barbers has joined up with a major barbering supply company here in New Zealand, and they are putting together an Aotearoa barber competition, which is a national barber competition for barbers around the country that want to come and show their skills to see who the best is in the country. This Aotearoa barber competition will be taking place next year in September. It's going to be a one-day occasion, but it's going to have a lot of people from around the country, barbers as well as suppliers and also vendors that will come and be a part of that day. They'll be setting up a Facebook page and an Instagram page for anybody who wants to upload their work, and they just show their skills, and then they can also jump in the competition. Also, it shows us as a public that we have a lot of talent here within the barber industry, and also that we can also get a haircut from the people or the barbers that we like, that we follow on these pages. So look out for that Aotearoa barber competition in 2017 in September. This the Silverstream team, like Silverstream, I mean, Silverstream. If you've been following my page for a while now, Silverstream is one of my favorite teams to follow and to watch, and I'm not too sure what it is. I think it might just be the uniforms, the colors, because I just like that light blue, that blue that they wear, and I don't know, they always seem to have a lot of good talent coming out, and also a lot of young talent that comes out, that comes through. And so and this year was probably a down year for them, but they also did like really good at the same time, which was kind of strange. Like, when people have down years, they're like usually really bad, and that's the way that first 15 rugby can be, is that when you have down sort of rebuilding year, and this is a rebuilding year, like if anyone tries to tell you that it isn't, it honestly is. If you look at how many guys that are in this team that are not year 13s, there were probably only like 4 year 13s this year. So looking at their record for what they had, which was they had like a 7-8 record this year, for a bunch of young dudes to come out and actually play at a higher level, especially in the Wellington competition, which is a pretty hard competition. It really is, especially depending on how your schedule is done. Like if you strike a schedule where you're playing the top teams week after week, it looks like a super 8 kind of schedule, or like a 1A kind of schedule. But these boys actually came out, and they honestly they actually blew me away with the kind of games that they played and the results that they got from some of these games. I mean, they had Luke Mannix, a year 11, captain their game against Wellington, which I thought was flipping. I thought he was the man, and I actually really enjoyed the way that he played in that game, which kind of convinced me that this guy is, to be honest, one of the guys to watch for the future. And so, like, he was just one of those kind of guys that I liked to see on the field. Jared Huddlewitter was probably, because he was injured for a fair bit of the start of the season, and then it took him a bit to get back into it. I think the young boys had no choice but to grow up real fast. They started off great because they had a game against Napier Boys, which they won 20-7. They fell to Gisborne Boys by a point, which I thought was harsh. And then they had the Hastings, and then they struck Hastings, in their third game of their season, where they were looking back at then Hastings back then, within the first few weeks of the season. We were trying to figure out what kind of team Hastings was. They put 52 points on Silverstream, and it was just 52-0. And then it got them into a losing pattern, because they then lost to New Plymouth Boys, and then they then lost to St Pat's Town, and so it kind of started this thing with them and put into their head that we just can't do it. Jared is out as well, things like that. And they had a few other guys that were out as too, because Lance, and Lance can't do it by himself either. Like Jared and Lance, I thought was a really good combination that they had together. But you need more than that, and then I do know that this was a rebuilding year, but you do need a lot more guys than just Jared and Lance to sort of take this team through. They had Jack White as well, who also was injured for a little bit too, but he sat out a couple of games, I think. And so, like, things like that have to fit together. They got back on track a bit, but I think they just lost too many in a row, because they beat Bishop Villa pretty good, and then they lost another 1 pointer to Scots College, and then they lost by three to Wellington College as well. And there's just too many games that you lose, just by the smallest of margins. And I know that can be really depressing to just come out of these games knowing that we only had 1 point. There's only 1 point between us. There's only 3 points. There's only 5 points. Gisborne boys, they lost by 1. New Plymouth boys, they lost by 3. Scots College, they lost by 3. They lost to Scots College again by 1. They lost to Wellington College by 3, and Rongotai by 6. And so, you kind of just look at these games and you're like, damn, all those games are just, either a 1 try or 1 penalty kick turnaround, and then your season went from 7 and 8 season to even like 11 and 4 or 11 and 5 or something like that, which is like massive, because like that also changes the dynamic of who's coming back next year, which is going to be massive. Silverstream is going to be one of my top 10 teams next year. And just looking at how many players are coming back, how many guys are in those key positions, like Stanley Paesia, who's such a really good prop. He's going to be back, along with Luke, and then they have Albert Pulu, who's coming back as well, who I really like. Chris O'Moore, who I really like. Kieran Higgins can also come back. Harrison Boyle can also come back. And all these guys, Todd, can also come back. So, these guys are all coming back, and these guys are all guys that can make a difference. Riley Forbes is another kid. Josh Southall, who's another good player as well. So, they got all these players. Mafaleo is another guy who can come back. Asier, Mafaleo. All these guys can come back, and they all played this year, and they had all the success this year. I see it as a success anyway. That's what I see it as. And so, looking towards the future and what they can do next year, I'm picking these guys as going to be one of the top teams, and for one of the top teams for the next 3 years maybe. And so, whatever they're doing down there in Silverstream with developing their players and whatever academy that they have set up, they're doing the right thing and they're in the right direction. And I'm pretty excited to see what they can bring up. For the team that they had this year, and for the schedule that they played, I thought it was a pretty successful year, because they did it at a young level, at a young age, at a high level competition, in a region with such really good teams, and they really did a good service to their jersey this year. Look out for them next year. They're going to be one of the teams that I'm going to really focus on next year, because I can see just from a paper perspective what they can be, and it's just for them to turn up over the summer and see what they can do, and see how they can physically get themselves ready mentally, and also put things together. So let's hope and see what the coaching staff has in store. But They had a good year. I still think it was a successful year. Finishing 29th in the country, which is still massive. But that's my review for Silverstream. Peace.